which is provided by Community Health Programs. My name is Hannah Patterson, and welcome to my kitchen. So today, what I'm going to do is called a Spring Cobb Salad. So when I'm talking about Spring Cobb Salad, I mean that I'm going to be using mostly spring seasonal vegetables. So that would be things like our asparagus, some radishes, carrots. So everything is just going to be much more available and cheaper to get, which is really great. So to start off, I'm actually going to take my eggs and I'm going to start boiling them. This is going to be the main protein source of our recipe. So I'm going to actually take 6 eggs. Put them at the bottom of my pot. Okay. And I'm just going to fill it full enough of water so that the eggs are fully submerged. And we're starting with cold water. All right. I'm going to start it off, and basically what I want to do is bring it to a boil. The important part is to not start boiling the water and then add the egg, because it actually shocks the egg and causes the shell to crack, and then it's not a very pretty boiled egg. So I start it with cold water and bring it to a boil. And then when it comes to a boil, I am just going to turn the heat off, keep this lid on, and I don't remove it at all, and I just time it for 15 minutes, and it comes out perfectly. You don't want to end up with an overcooked egg, because when you overcook it, you notice that there's this green around the yolk of the egg. That is that albumin I was actually talking about in the last episode when we were talking about leeks. When you overcook the albumin, it actually is what turns the egg green, because there's a chemical reaction with that protein. It's pretty cool. So then, now I am going to take all my vegetables and I'm going to give them a nice wash. Alright, so now have I not only washed all my vegetables, I've actually washed my garbanzo beans or chickpeas. They're both really the same thing. So what I did was I got the canned garbanzo beans, or you can even look for chickpeas, but commonly they're called garbanzo beans when you see them in the can. They do come dried too, but this one's ready to eat. That's why I choose the canned ones. They're really great. It's going to be most of the main source of our carbohydrates for this recipe. So I'm just going to put that back to the side. And then the first thing I'm going to do is take my asparagus. I'm probably only going to use half for myself right now. But let's see. So the best way to tell where to cut off the end of the asparagus is to simply take it and let it snap. And it'll show you where it will snap. And that part is going to end up being the rough part of the asparagus that you don't really want to eat. It's a texture thing. And sometimes you can just use that as a marker, and then you'll know where the rest of them typically are. Sometimes you get asparagus that can be really thick or really small. I personally like the really small ones. So what I'm also going to do is cut it up into pieces instead of just big pieces. Whoops, there's my eggs boiling. All right, so I'm just gonna turn it off, leave it be, and set my timer for 15 minutes. And I do not remove the lid. That's the most important part. This is the best way to get the perfect hard-boiled egg without that green overcooked yolk. Now, I'm going to take my other pot, and I personally have a little steamer. I love this thing, and I am actually going to put enough water in here till it reaches just underneath where the strainer is. If you don't have one of these, that's okay. You can just boil water. It's like the same thing. Almost the same thing. But what I'm going to do is might as well just throw these in because it's just sitting right on top. It's really great. So this is going to be a steamed asparagus. Just cover that up, and I'm going to listen for a boil, and we're going to let it boil for just a little while. The best way to tell if you're overdoing your asparagus is if you see that the water is actually turning green. That's when you know you're overdoing it, because all of that great nutrients in the asparagus is actually seeping into that water, and you don't really want it to be that overcooked. Just enough for it to kind of soften. Now, I am going to take my romaine that I've rinsed off. I'm going to take the top off. Sometimes the top ends, they look a little, not necessarily rotten, but a little brown or whatever. So I just take the tops off. And I just make some nice little slices. Take the whole thing. Some people like to take the leaves apart and then stack them, but I find that this makes things prettier and a little easier. And sometimes it's a little too big of pieces. I hate how awkward it is when you're eating a salad and you can't get all of it in your mouth, and it's just like, it's embarrassing. I like a nicely cut salad. All right, so my bowl here. This is still a little bit wet, so what I'm going to do, I don't have paper towels, I like using regular towels. I'm just going to put that at the bottom and kind of let it dry as I'm working with this recipe. I used to have a salad spinner, and then I broke it, but salad spinners are really great. They're super fun. Okay. And I'm going to try and do my other head of this too. My bowl for my chickens. Okay. Nice, crisp romaine lettuce. There we go. Excellent. Whoop. Okay. Now, let's see here. Next, I'm going to use my carrots. So now I've got my carrots, and what I did was I just cut the ends off of each of them. So we have a nice fresh carrot. And what I'm going to do is peel the outsides of the carrot. Turn around sometimes just so you don't get those fingers. Okay. And now, give my carrots to the chickens. All right. Now, instead of me cutting up my whole carrot, I think I'm actually going to use my peeler and just kind of make carrot ribbons for my salad. Really cute. So I just finished peeling my carrots. They look like cute little ribbon curls. Or you can even use a cheese grater, or even just cut it up yourself. But I think using a peeler makes it really pretty. So I'm just going to put it in my bowl with the romaine. So it's still a little wet, which is okay. But I'm just going to kind of let it dry as I'm going and doing the rest of this recipe. So now I'm going to grab my radish. I'm actually going to cut the end off. And then, you know what? I'm going to cut this end off too. And I'm actually going to take the peeler again, and I'm going to make radish curls. It's really cute. I love radishes. So my timer is going off for my eggs. So I'm going to turn it off. Oh, no, I mean turn that off. And then I am going to let out all that hot water. And then I'm gonna kind of give it a little shock with some cold water. Cool it down a little bit so then I can grab it. And if they're not too hot for you, you can actually take them and kind of on a flat surface, give them a nice crack all around, still being pretty gentle, even maybe sometimes a little roll. I personally have had this counter cleaned just for this purpose. So I don't have to worry about getting them dirty. And give them a little opening. So the point of this cold water and then giving them a nice crack is to let the water get in between the shell and this layer between the shell and the egg. So when you crack it open, it actually has like this layer. It actually ends up suctioning to the egg itself, the white part of the egg. And when you're giving it a little crack and putting it in the cold water with that shock, it actually, the water goes up in between that small layer and it keeps it from suctioning. So then, after that, it's easier to actually just completely remove the egg shell. And then you get a nice, clean egg afterwards. Let me show you. So, hold on just a sec. I'm going to give you kind of a close-up. So you see the egg here. This has this little layer right here. That's that layer in between. Once you get that water underneath it, it peels right off. Watch this as I try not to make a huge mess. It just comes right off so easily. And I have free-range chickens too. Their shells are so much harder to peel off. Perfect. Okay, so now I've finished my radishes and they look so cute. Nice little peeled ribbons. All right, put that to the side and then I turned my asparagus off. Now, I'm just gonna show you. Turn my lid off, I'm gonna let it kind of cool off, but if you could see a little close, not really. Well, basically, my water is not at all green yet, but this is still soft to the touch and a little squishy. All right, so that's going to be perfect. Now I am going to take this right out, pour this water in here, pour a little bit of cold water in here and let it cool off a bit. Next is my onion. So what I'm going to do is cut the top right off. There we go. And this time, instead of cutting it in half, I am going to peel the outside off. This little bugger. I'm gonna have to do another layer here. That's because I don't like the look of it. There we go. Awesome. So, now I'm keeping it whole, and this way when I cut it, it's going to look pretty. It's going to be in little rings. Or you can cut it in half, cut it however you want.